Welcome to Israel Now News on God TV. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I am Rebecca Rand.
In our top story, Israelis are gearing up to head back to the polls to vote in national elections for the third time in 12 months. Both the incumbent, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and his opponent, the more left-leaning Benny Gantz, have met with U.S. President Donald Trump and have agreed, if elected, to implement his proposed peace plan, known as the Deal of the Century. The country has been nearly deadlocked and unable to form a majority of 61 seats in the Knesset to make a coalition government.
Israel Now News will continue to follow this developing story and keep you updated on the unfolding events in the only democracy in the Middle East. A high-level team of American officials are touring around the Jewish heartland with their Israeli counterparts as part of a joint delegation to prepare for the implementation of President Trump's peace plan, and specifically the annexation of Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria. U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman, his top advisor Aryeh Lightstone, and C. Scott Leith of the National Security Council will be working together with the Israeli ambassador to the United States, Ron Dermer, Ronen Peretz, the director of the Israeli Prime Minister's office, and Likud Minister Yariv Levin. The president has tasked the Bilateral Mapping Committee with converting the conceptual map from his peace plan into a more detailed and calibrated rendering so that recognition can be immediately achieved. Speaking of the task at hand, Ambassador David Friedman said that his team is aiming to research and make the right choices concerning Israeli annexation so that decisions can be made at once, holistically, and in totality so we can get it done right.
Jerusalem has been working feverishly to combat the deadly coronavirus both at home and abroad. Israel has sent aid to China to help fight the disease, and the startup nation is striving to apply existing technologies to treat the sick and stop the spread of the contagion. Smart Aid, an Israeli nonprofit organization, has sent hundreds of thousands of masks, protective gear, and medical supplies to China. And Israeli high-tech companies are working to make their technologies applicable to treating victims of the virus and preventing its spread. In addition, the Jewish people used their greatest resource, the power of prayer, to help victims of the disease. Thousands of Israelis gathered at the Western Wall to collectively pray for the victims of the virus and for healing in China and throughout the world. Israelis recited psalms, traditional prayers for healing, and they asked God to halt the global pandemic.
The Qatari Foreign Ministry has increased its aid to the Gaza Strip by $15 million and announced that it will finance the construction of a $25 million hospital in Rafah. Doha has sent an influx of over $1 billion into Gaza since 2014 in an attempt to rebuild the Hamas-run enclave. Many people are critical of international aid to Gaza because Hamas invariably hijacks the money and supplies to fund its terror campaign against Israel. One of the preconditions for the Qatari payments was the cessation of terror, but that stipulation has obviously been overlooked. Yochanan has more on the continued violence from Gaza.
That's right, Rebecca. The residents of southern Israel have once again been sent scrambling for bomb shelters as radical Islamists in Gaza unleashed a barrage of rockets into civilian communities. 55,000 students were ordered to stay home from schools. Roads were closed and train service halted as the Islamic Jihad terror group launched dozens of missiles into Israel. 12 rockets were fired in one very intense hour, with one striking a playground. The upsurge in violence occurred one day after the IDF stopped 2 terrorists from planting a bomb along Israel's border with Gaza. A jihadist sniper team then opened fire on Israeli soldiers and police officers. Jerusalem is seeking to broker a lasting ceasefire agreement with Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza. However, intermittent rocket fire and airborne balloon bombs continue to upset the daily lives of Israelis in the Gaza periphery.
For the first time in modern history, Saudi Arabian King Salman hosted an Israeli rabbi at his royal palace in Riyadh for a meeting of an interreligious dialogue organization. This is the first time that the Jewish people were represented officially at the king's residence, and the fact that Rabbi David Rosen is an Israeli citizen makes his participation even more significant. King Salman reportedly indicated that his country is in the midst of becoming more open to other religions. In addition to Rabbi Rosen representing Judaism, leaders from the Christian, Islamic, Buddhist, and Hindu faiths also participated.
The Lawfare Project and the Israel Allies Foundation have joined forces to fight the European Union's anti-Israel labeling regulations. These newly passed measures require products that are made by Jews in Jerusalem, Judea and Samaria, and the Golan Heights to be labeled as made in the occupied territories. The regulations are seen as working in tandem with BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanctions movement, in hopes of discouraging Europeans from buying products made by Israeli companies. The Lawfare Project says that it will use its team of over 400 lawyers in conjunction with nearly 1,000 lawmakers working for the Israel Allies Foundation to fight these BDS measures aimed at targeting Israeli-made products. Israel Allies caucuses in the European Union and the United Kingdom have already mobilized to combat the regulations, and the IAC in the Netherlands helped to pass a resolution against the labeling. Josh Weinstein, the president of the Israel Allies Foundation, told the Jerusalem Post that during these times, significant hostility towards Israel stems from the European Union. He said it is essential that we unite our allies and the parliaments across Europe, encouraging them to work as a powerful bloc against the labeling of Jewish goods. Weinstein praised the new partnership with the Lawfare Project, saying that it will allow us to effect real policy change against the anti-Semitic ruling of the European Court of Justice.
The Republican Jewish Coalition has released a cautionary statement after Bernie Sanders won 48% of the Democratic vote in the Nevada caucuses. Sanders is a liberal socialist who holds very disturbing views about Israel. The RJC tweeted, "Bernie Sanders is now the de facto leader of the Democratic Party. His official stance is to divert U.S. taxpayer funds from programs designed to jointly develop military technology and hardware with Israel and instead give that money to Hamas." Sanders has aligned himself with several anti-Semites, and he has threatened to withhold U.S. aid to the Jewish state.
Israeli officials are furious after a Flemish town held a virulently anti-Semitic parade in Belgium. Despite numerous warnings from Israel and the loss of its UNESCO status, the mayor of the city of Aalst decided to move forward with the town's yearly celebration, which is infamous for its blatantly anti-Jewish characters. Rather than removing its anti-Semitic imagery, the residents of Aalst decided to increase the offensive nature of their anti-Semitic floats this year. Dozens of local residents dressed up as stereotypical Jews and held signs with derogatory comments about Jewish people.
Jews around the world are getting ready to celebrate the miracle of Purim, when God spared the Jews of Persia from the evil scheme of the madman Haman. But just as Jews prepare to fast, pray, and commemorate God's mercy by reading the scroll of Esther, militant members of the Islamic Republic are threatening to raise the tombs of the biblical figures of Esther and Mordecai. The few Jews that remain in Iran have worked to protect the shrine of the biblical heroes, but an Islamic student group is threatening to destroy the site and build a Palestinian consulate on the spot as an act of defiance against Israel and the United States.
London is reportedly reviewing its policy of providing tens of millions of dollars to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees regarding its funding of textbooks that incite violence against Jews. Jerusalem has long called out UNRWA for funding curriculum which glorifies violence, martyrdom, and the destruction of the Jewish state. Now the UK-based Daily Mail has published excerpts of textbooks that glorify terror. England has given $427 million over the past 5 years to the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, and this year London has committed to providing an additional $84 million. Downing Street is taking the allegation of funding Palestinian incitement to terrorism seriously. A spokesman for the Department of International Development released a statement saying the British government has zero-tolerance approach toward incitement to violence.
The beautiful beach town of Tel Aviv has been ranked one of the most economically influential cities in the world. Known as Israel's high-tech hub, Tel Aviv has ranked above the booming cities of Amsterdam, Jakarta, and Zurich. CEO World Magazine noted that Tel Aviv's rank of 16th place was based on its overall economic activity, strength of the finance and banking industries, political and demographic influence, quality of life, and competitiveness in business, culture, and politics. And they're not alone in praising the White City. Forbes magazine recently ranked Tel Aviv number 2 on its list of best places to visit.
An Israeli cycling team has, for the first time, been invited to participate in an event in the United Arab Emirates. Team Startup Nation represented the Jewish state in the ride, which stretched 148 kilometers through the 7 Arab Emirates, starting in Dubai and ending in Abu Dhabi. The 2020 UAE Tour is the largest cycling event in the Middle East. Until recently, Jews, and especially Israelis, have been excluded from Arab sporting events, but this negative attitude is slowly changing, and the more moderate Arab states are gradually beginning to accept Israel and invite its athletes to participate in their competitions. The initiative to bring the Israeli cyclists to the UAE was spearheaded by billionaire Sylvan Adams, who co-owns the Israeli cycling team. Adams said, "It is not an exaggeration to suggest that sport can be a force for peace."
The state of New Jersey has raised its threat level for anti-Semitic attacks and hate crimes. A report by the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security and Preparedness describes a sharp increase in biased attacks in 2019. A total of 944 hate crimes were reported, which is a 65% increase from the previous year. Authorities in New Jersey say they fear that the acceleration could serve as motivation for future violent acts and recruitment efforts promoting extremist ideology throughout their state.
We are happy to report that the Sea of Galilee, or the Kinneret as it's known in Hebrew, has nearly reached its maximum capacity due to abundant rains in Israel this year. This is the first time that the sea has been full since 2013. Lake Kinneret is Israel's only fresh body of water and is treasured by the Jewish people. Once the Galilee is full, the Water Authority will open the dam at the southern end of the sea and allow fresh water to replenish the Jordan River as well as the salty Dead Sea. Jews have been praying for rain in the land of Israel since before the Feast of Tabernacles, and the nation is celebrating God's blessing of rain by flocking to their precious lake to see the waves crash over the boardwalk in the ancient city of Tiberias.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host Josh Reinstein and we're here in our beautiful Jerusalem studio. My guest today is Sam Grunberg. He's the world chairman of Keren Hayesod. Sam, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Josh.
Sam, tell our viewers a little about what is Keren Hayesod.
This year we're going to be celebrating our 100th year. We were founded in 1920 as one of the institutions that predated the modern state of Israel to help build the nation and fulfill the dream of Zion.
Well, one of your big projects is Aliyah. You're in charge of making sure that the Jewish people come home to Israel. Why is this so important?
Well, Aliyah and having Jews come and return home, first of all, that's fulfilling the vision of Zion and fulfilling the prophecy. And without bringing the Jews home, the state of Israel can't be as strong as it needs to be. And so over the 100 years that we've been in existence, we've actually helped over 3 million olim, or new immigrants, come to Israel. And that continues to be one of our driving goals.
Well, this organization was primarily founded and supported by Jews. But under your leadership, a lot of evangelical Christians are getting involved. Why is it important for Bible-believing Christians to get involved with Aliyah?
As you mentioned, 100 years ago when we were founded, it was about mobilizing the Jewish communities around the world. But as time went on, the importance of the alliance and really the foundation of the shared values and shared vision and also shared destiny with our Christians, brothers and sisters around the world became so much more important. And the relationship with our Christian friends around the world has been essential. And it's also very important in terms of strengthening Israel. So those common goals dovetail. And that bond is something that through Keren Hayesod, because of our global platform of the Jewish communities around the world, is the best way to take part of the modern Zionist dream.
This has become a global phenomenon. We're seeing Christian support out of Asia, Europe, and North America. Why do you think Christians are so excited to get involved with Aliyah?
I think that Christians around the world, as we've seen the modern state of Israel come into being from 1948 to today, see being part of the Zionist dream, and through Keren Hayesod, seeing the fulfillment of the prophecy today.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see that not only are you involved in the actual Keren Yesod, but also you are that fulfillment prophet. You are an Oleh. You're someone who made Aliyah from the United States of America and rose to this position of prominence within Keren Yesod, one of our oldest institutions. Tell me a little about yourself. How did you get involved with this?
Yeah, I really had the privilege and the blessing. I was born and raised in South Florida, in Miami Beach, and I came to Israel on my own. I fulfilled my own private dream, but part of fulfilling the prophecy, at the age of 17, I decided to make Aliyah and to go up and ascend and become a new immigrant. And I came here and I studied Torah and studied Judaism. I volunteered and served in the military. I was a lone soldier. And then I did a bunch of different things. I worked in finance, later studied law, worked as a transactional real estate lawyer. But then I got involved in community work and in advocacy and in Jewish communities around the world. I worked with the World Jewish Congress for a number of years. And then I had the privilege about 5 years ago to be appointed by Prime Minister Netanyahu to serve as an Israeli diplomat, and I was appointed as Israel's Consul General in Los Angeles to the Southwest United States. And I did that for a number of years. And when I finished that diplomatic posting, I had the privilege to then again be recommended and appointed in my role as World Chairman of Keren Yesod. So as you mentioned, it really is a unique way of coming full circle in living that dream myself and then being part of heading and leading an organization that does this around the world, not only, as you mentioned, with our Jewish community around the world, but also our friends of Israel from all around the world and our Christian friends who are helping us fulfill that prophecy.
When we saw the prophecy fulfilled of the nations coming from the north and the south, the east and the west, we saw the Russian Aliyah, the Ethiopian Aliyah. What's the next big Aliyah to take place?
Well, there's a lot of, as you know, there's Aliyah by choice, and then there's Aliyah from circumstance, which, of course, only God controls. It's not clear. A lot of Aliyah today actually comes from former Soviet Union, if you look at the numbers. But circumstances can change. You know, there was if Corbyn would have been elected in the UK, there was a lot of anticipation that we would have seen a huge wave of Aliyah from the UK, from Great Britain. That didn't happen, but things can change. There was Argentina. There was a lot of talk as well. There are a good number of Jews in Argentina. So it depends a lot on world events, and also depends on kind of natural flow of Aliyah numbers.
You're involved with a segment on Israel Now News called Return to Zion, and part of that segment is a 2-minute clip of the Prime Minister of Israel. Why is it so important to get the message directly from the Prime Minister to Christian viewers around the world?
Well, I think, first of all, the Prime Minister, who, as I mentioned, I really had the honor and privilege to be appointed now in 2 roles by him. He's been such a strong leader for such a long period of time, and I think that the fact that he understands and he shows the appreciation, has very good relations in the Christian world, not only in the United States, of course, but really around the world. So I think, first of all, the fact that he's recognized that and gives that acknowledgement, and also I think he's seen as somebody who speaks the truth, even when that truth is unpopular, and is also such a big believer in the Zionist dream and fulfilling the Zionist dream and fulfilling the prophecy.
Sam, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
For the audience out there, I want to encourage everyone, first of all, to support Israel, to come to Israel, and as somebody who leads an organization of Jewish communities around the world, I want to stress the importance of the bond between the Jewish communities around the world and all of our Christian friends around the world to come together for our values that dovetail and come together for supporting Israel and fulfilling the prophecy.
Thank you, Sam, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
Up next, the Return to Zion with Keren Yesod.
Shalom and welcome to the Return to Zion with Keren HaYesod. I'm Sam Grundwerg, World Chairman of Keren HaYesod, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Even before the creation of the State of Israel, Keren HaYesod worked with the Friends of Israel to bring home our sons and daughters. Watch this amazing story about how together we saved the Jewish community from Iraq.
In 1947, the United Nations took a historic vote to establish a Jewish state. But Jews who had lived peacefully for centuries in neighboring Arab countries became a target for violent retribution, especially the 150,000 proud Jews of Iraq. In response, the Zionist movement launched its most daring operation. Shlomo Hillel, who would later become an Israeli government minister and world chairman of Keren HaYesod UIA, was recruited to plan an operation which would save Iraqi Jews and bring them back to their ancient homeland.
אחרי שנה של שליחות בעיראק, אני חזרתי די מאוכזב וטענתי שאנחנו לא עושים די. ויום אחד בא אליי מישהו והוא אומר לי, אתה כל הזמן מתלונן שאנחנו לא עושים די, תבוא מחר לחיפה, ישנם שני טייסים אמריקנים שהיו גיבורי מלחמה במלחמת העולם השנייה, והם שמעו שהם יכולים פה להציע את השירות שלהם, לגמרי תכליתיים. אפשר לנסוע לבגדד, יש מקומות במדבר לחנות. אני אומר, כל עיראק זה מדבר אחד גדול. אוקיי, אז בוא ניסע. הכביש שיוצא מבגדד, מצד אחד יש בו שדה התעופה, מצד שני מחנה צבאי גדול. כלומר, שאני פה צריך להיזהר מאוד, יש גדר בכל שדה תעופה. אז ראינו באיזה מקום שהגדר קצת חלשה. באמת מגיע המטוס, מתחיל להניע את הפרופלרים ברעש נורא, והיום מדליק את הפרוז'קטורים כדי לעבר את המגדל הפיקוח שבתוך שדה התעופה, ואנחנו מתחילים להעלות את האנשים.
The pilots then took off and aimed the nose of their Curtiss Commando aircraft westward, home to Zion.
אז ברגע שעזבנו את שדה התעופה של בגדד בשלום, הייתה כמובן הרגשת הנחת רווחה, יצאנו בשלום. אבל האמת שזה עדיין לא הסוף. שכבו והחזיקו אחד בשני בידיים, ואנחנו עוברים את רמת הגולן, ופתאום אני רואה את הכנרת כחול. ואני כבר רואה מרחוק את יבניאל, ורואה שתי מדורות, ואז ישר הטייס, בלי לעשות סיבובים, בין שתי המדורות האלה נוחת.
Within minutes, the new immigrants had been spirited away to local communities, many pioneered by Keren HaYesod, to begin their new lives in the home of their ancestors. From 1951 to 1952, around 120,000 were flown to Israel in Operations Ezra and Nehemiah, named after the biblical prophets of ancient Babylon. With the help of Keren HaYesod, these immigrants built new lives. They became leaders of Israeli industry, politics, and the military. Operation Michaelberg also demonstrated that Jews would return to Zion, whatever the circumstances. As the Jewish state celebrates its 70th year, Israel can be proud that time and again, it has plucked Jews from danger to safety. All of this can be tracked back to Shlomo Hillel and two brave American pilots. Today, many more Jews dream of returning to their homelands to play their own part in the miracle which is the State of Israel. Keren HaYesod is at the heart of these efforts. Jeremiah promised, "Your children will return to their borders."
Let's bless Israel together.
Now's the time for you to get involved. Assist Keren HaYesod to raise the necessary funds in order to bring Jews yearning for their homeland back to Israel. Your donation can help fulfill the biblical prophecy today. To donate and get information, visit our website at www.khisrael.org.
This is a tough story, but you need to hear it. Imagine a 15-year-old Iranian girl named Fatemeh. She's smart, and she dreams of starting her own business. Fatemeh wakes up for a run before school. She tries to fill up her water bottle, but this is the water that comes out. Fatemeh starts her run, and she wants to feel the wind in her hair. But when she removes her head covering, religious police threaten to beat her. Fatemeh gets ready for school, but the headmaster of the Hadaf girls' school where she goes tells her that her school is closed. You see, there's too much air pollution. Thousands have died from smog in Tehran. Fatemeh walks to Harandi Park to clear her head, but the park is filled with drug dealers. She stops at her favorite bakery in Aladdin Mall to eat cake yazdi, but there's a nationwide strike. Fatemeh walks past the Parmis high-rise building, and she sees the 20th floor engulfed in flames. Firefighters haven't been able to extinguish the flames for days because they lack the money for proper equipment. Fatemeh is completely exasperated. Why is everything in my country falling apart, she asks. She wants to voice her concerns on social media, but the regime bans Facebook and Twitter. They're terrified that Fatemeh might get access to information that they don't control. Fatemeh needs to relax, so she turns on the TV. The electricity collapses. What are our leaders doing with all our money? Fatemeh asks in despair. She opens the Vataneh Imruz newspaper, and she finds out. Billions wasted moving Iran's army to Syria. Billions wasted trying to get nuclear weapons. Billions wasted on war in Yemen. Fatemeh may be an imaginary name, but her story is the real story of millions of Iranians. If you want peace, help Fatemeh. Help the people of Iran to raise their voice against a regime that oppresses them and denies them a life of dignity, prosperity, and respect.
The biblical prophecy is unfolding right before our very eyes. The people of Israel are returning to the Promised Land after 2,000 years of exile. But millions of Jews are still longing to come home. Bless Israel by supporting Keren Hayesod United Israel Appeal, the leading official fundraising organization for the State of Israel. Together, we can fulfill the prophecy of the Bible.
Let's bless Israel together.
To donate and get information, visit khisrael.org.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Rebecca Rand, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.